Welcome back, guys. So, where we are in the endocrine physiology, we have seen our pituitary gland, the master gland, and thyroid gland. Now, today we will see the single most important gland. What is that, sir? That is our endocrine pancreas. Right? Endocrine pancreas is very important for all the exams. So, with this important note, now we will talk about the cells of pancreas and hormones produced by these cells. So first see here, very important. The endocrine nature of pancreas is because of the tail part of pancreas. Right? Why, sir? Because the tail part of pancreas is abundant with certain cells, and these cells are isolated cells. Right? So why they called isolated cells, sir? Because they looks like islands of cells. That's why they called isolated cells. Since these cells are founded by Langerhans, so they also called islets of Langerhans. So the endocrine nature of pancreas is because of the tail part, because this tail part is abundant with islets of Langerhans, the isolated cells. Now, sir, what are these cells? So very important. The first cell is our A cell or alpha cell. So what are the hormones produced by alpha cell? The hormone is glucagon. What is the function of this hormone, sir? It increases the blood glucose. The primary function of glucagon is it increases the blood glucose. Now the second cell is our B cell or beta cell. What are the hormones, sir? The major hormone is our insulin. What are the functions of insulin? There are many functions, but the primary function is decrease in blood glucose. Very important. Now the second substance is amylin, and this is stored and released with insulin. So very important, sir. See here. This amylin potentiates the actions of insulin, right? This amylin potentiates the actions of insulin. That's why the amylin analogs like pramlintide, they are used in treatment of diabetes mellitus, right? Very important. Now, the third substance from beta cells is C-peptide, and this C-peptide is released in equimolar 1:1 ratio with the insulin. Right? This is very important. Since this C-peptide is released in equimolar ratio, so if you want to know the levels of insulin, you just measure the C-peptide and you can know the levels of insulin. That's why see here something called C-peptide assay, right? And you can know the levels of insulin. That's why this C-peptide is also known as endogenous insulin marker, right? Very important. Now see, the third cell is our D cell or delta cells, which produce somatostatin or universal inhibitor, which inhibits the actions of insulin and glucagon. Now the fourth and the last cell is our F cell, which produce something called polypeptide, and since this polypeptide is produced by pancreas, so pancreatic polypeptide, also known as PP. So very important. Endocrine nature of pancreas is because of the islets of Langerhans, isolated cells, right? Now the cells are A cell produce glucagon, B cell produce insulin, amylin and C-peptide, D cell produce somatostatin, and F cell produce pancreatic polypeptide, right? Now, sir, very important. Out of these four cells, which is the cell which form the major part of endocrine pancreas? So our insulin secreting beta cells form the major portion of pancreas or endocrine pancreas, that is 55%. Very important, sir. So with this important note, so now we will discuss about insulin, our hero, our today's center of discussion. So this insulin is discovered by Banting, and for this purpose he also awarded with Nobel Prize along with his fellow MacLeod. So Banting and MacLeod, they are awarded with Nobel Prize for the discovery of insulin, and there are 51 amino acids in the structure of insulin. And how we know this, sir? Because the structure of insulin was sequenced by Sanger. Sanger was sequenced the structure of insulin. So how to remember this, sir? S for S. The structure of insulin sequenced by Sanger, S for S. And how to know this, sir? That who discovered the insulin? We know that Banting discovered this. So insulin is produced by which cell? By beta cell. So B for B, right? So with this important note, now we will talk about some important facts about insulin. So insulin is the first protein which was completely sequenced. The second, insulin is the first protein to be produced at large scale by recombinant DNA technology. Very important, sir. The first protein which was completely sequenced is insulin. The first protein which is produced at large scale by using recombinant DNA technology is insulin. Now, sir, very important. This insulin is stored in beta cells along with zinc. Why, sir? What is the importance of zinc with insulin? Because this zinc stabilizes the structure of insulin. That's why this insulin is stored with zinc in the beta cell, because zinc stabilizes the structure of insulin. Now, very important, sir. One certain transcription factor is required for the synthesis of insulin. So what is the name of that transcription factor, sir? HNF. HNF, hepatocyte nuclear factor, which is required for the synthesis of insulin. Now, very important from pathology point of view, sir. If any case there is mutation of this HNF, hepatocyte nuclear factor, this will decrease the insulin levels. HNF mutation will decrease the insulin levels and the person will manifest with certain type of diabetes mellitus. What is that, sir? Modi, not our Prime Minister Mr. Modi. This is MODY, Modi, known as maturity onset diabetes of young. So with this important note, so now we will see the release of insulin from beta cells. So see here, very important. Whenever there is increase in blood glucose, our body cannot tolerate this increase in blood glucose and our body will do something to decrease the blood glucose. So every rise in blood glucose is quickly followed by a decrease in blood glucose. And this is all possible because of one very important hormone. The name of the hormone, sir, is insulin. So whenever there is rise in blood glucose, insulin will release and this insulin will decrease the blood glucose. And this is one example of negative feedback regulation. So this blood glucose regulation is a negative feedback regulation. Now friends, we have two important questions. One, how this insulin will release. Second, the actions of this insulin, how this insulin will decrease the blood glucose. So now see here, this is one typical beta cell. This is the basolateral end. This one is apical end. And here the insulin molecules are stored in vesicles inside the beta cells. Now, this beta cell got the RMP of minus 90 millivolt. The resting membrane potential of this beta cell is minus 90 millivolt. And this RMP is maintained by something very important, the outward movement of potassium, right? And this outward movement of potassium is maintained by one very important channel, or ATP sensitive potassium channel. Now see, sir, whenever there is rise in blood glucose, how this beta cell will sense that there is a rise in blood glucose? For that, this glucose need to be enter inside the beta cells. So here on the basolateral end, we have one very important transporter. The name is GLU2, glucose transporter 2. This will enter this glucose inside the beta cell. So that's why this transporter is also known as glucose sensor. Now sir, the glucose is inside the beta cells and this glucose is metabolized. So whatever the glucose, everything will come inside and that glucose will be metabolized. Now because of this metabolism, there will be production of energy, there will be production of a lot of ATPs. And now very important, now these ATPs will close this ATP sensitive potassium channel. So because of the metabolism of glucose, there is synthesis of ATP, and this rise in ATP will close the very important ATP sensitive potassium channel. If potassium channel is closed, means there will be no outward movement of potassium now. So what will happen, sir? This potassium will start to accumulate inside the beta cell, and this is positive charge. So something will happen inside the cell. What is that, sir? This cell will start to depolarize, right? There will be depolarization inside the beta cell, and due to this depolarization, the RMP will decrease to minus 40 millivolt, and on this voltage there is something on the apical end known as VSCC, voltage sensitive calcium channel. This will open and there will be influx of calcium. So now we have ATP, we have calcium, and we also have something called snare proteins. Friends, these are the important three requirements for the release of insulin from the vesicles. So see here, we have beta cell, RMP is 90 millivolt, that is maintained by the outward movement of potassium facilitated by ATP sensitive potassium channel. Now there is rise in blood glucose, which is transferred inside the cell with the help of GLUT2, glucose transporter or glucose sensor. Now this glucose will be metabolized and there is synthesis of ATP. Because of this ATP, now the ATP sensitive potassium channel will close. That's why the potassium cannot go outside. That's why there will be accumulation of potassium inside the beta cell. Since this potassium is positive charge, so the cell will start to depolarize. Because of that depolarization, the RMP will decrease to minus 40 millivolt, and at this time there is something on the apical end known as VSCC, voltage sensitive calcium channel will open and there will be influx of calcium. So now we have all three requirements for the insulin release. We have ATP, we have calcium, we have snare protein. So now these vesicles will be pushed outside. These vesicles will come outside by the process known as exocytosis. So this is exocytosis of insulin, also known as, very importantly, insulin release. So with this important note, so see here, this is the summary what we have discussed in our previous slide. So there is rise in blood glucose. This glucose will enter inside the beta cell, will be metabolized. There is synthesis of ATP. This ATP will close the ATP sensitive potassium channel, also known as SUR, sulfonylurea receptors. Now because of the closure of this ATP sensitive potassium channel, there will be potassium rise inside the cell, and because of that there will be depolarization. That's why the RMP will decrease to minus 40 millivolt. On this voltage there is something very important, VSCC, voltage sensitive calcium channel will open, and then there is influx of calcium. So now we have calcium, we have ATP, we have snare protein, right, which are the requirements for the insulin release, right? So with this important note, so now we know that insulin is stored in the vesicles in our beta cells. We also know that RMP of the beta cell is maintained by outward movement of potassium ions. Now see something very important, sir. What are the steps of insulin release? So the first step is the glucose is sensed by our GLUT2 or glucose transporter or glucose sensor. Step 2 is closure of ATP sensitive potassium channel. Step 3 is opening of calcium channels. Step 4 is exocytosis of insulin. So the four important steps of insulin release are: number 1, glucose is sensed by GLUT2. Number 2, closure of ATP sensitive potassium channel. Number 3, opening of calcium channels. And the number 4, the exocytosis of insulin. Finally, insulin release. Now sir, something very important. Now we know that to release the insulin, the closure of potassium channels are must. We need to close the potassium channel, the ATP sensitive potassium channel, for the release of insulin. Now something called as sulfonylureas. These agents can also close the ATP sensitive potassium channel and can release insulin. That's why these agents are also known as something called insulin secretagogues, because they can also release the insulin by closing the ATP sensitive potassium channel, right? So since these sulfonylureas can close the ATP sensitive potassium channel and can release insulin, these sulfonylureas are very important, used in the treatment of diabetes mellitus DM, sir. So very important. Now apart from ATP, this ATP sensitive potassium channel can be also closed by sulfonylureas. That's why known as SUR, sulfonylurea receptors. Now sir, if we open this ATP sensitive potassium channel, what will happen? So in that case, there will be decrease in insulin release. So there are some agents known as like diazoxide. These agents open the ATP sensitive potassium channel and decrease the insulin release. That's why used in the treatment of insulinoma, where we need to decrease the insulin release. So with this important note, now we will see the actions of insulin. So the first action of insulin is decrease in blood glucose. So what are the receptors for insulin action, sir? The major receptor for insulin action is tyrosine kinase receptor. So this tyrosine kinase receptor has 2 alpha subunits and 2 beta subunits. Now see sir, very important. Which subunit of tyrosine kinase receptor is responsible for enzyme activity? The tyrosine kinase enzyme activity. So the beta subunit of tyrosine kinase receptor is responsible for the tyrosine kinase enzyme activity. Very important. Now see sir, where these tyrosine kinase receptors are present, what are the sites? So the 3 major sites are, first your heart, second your skeletal muscles, and third one is your adipose tissue. These are the 3 major sites where tyrosine kinase receptors are present. Now see sir, how your insulin will move the glucose inside your heart, skeletal muscle and adipose tissue by using these tyrosine kinase receptors. So for that, see here, there is something very important, GLUT4. This glucose transporter 4, they will transport the glucose inside the tissues of your heart, skeletal muscle and adipose tissues and will decrease the blood glucose levels. So this type of movement of glucose inside your tissues by the GLUT4 transporters by using insulin is known as facilitated diffusion. Very important, sir. So this decrease in blood glucose is happen within the seconds of insulin release. That's why known as rapid action of insulin. So the first rapid action of insulin is decrease in blood glucose, and the second one is decrease in potassium ions in blood. So that's why insulin is used in the treatment of hyperkalemia. But very important to note, here insulin is given in combination with dextrose. Why sir? To prevent the hypoglycemia. So when we treat hyperkalemia with insulin, we always give insulin in combination with dextrose to prevent the hypoglycemia. So with this important note, so now we will talk about the long-term actions of insulin. Long-term actions of insulin means which takes hours to days, right? So see here, very important. Our insulin is a major anabolic hormone and it favors the storage. So insulin is a major anabolic hormone which favors the storage. That's why it takes care about our future also. So that's why insulin is also known as the hormone of insurance. Very important. Now see sir, our insulin stimulates glucogenesis, formation of glycogen, the storage form of glucose, lipogenesis, right, the storage of lipid, and glycolysis, glucose uptake by glycolysis. And it also inhibits, because it does not destruct anything, it always favors the storage. So it inhibits glycogenolysis, breakdown of glycogen, the storage form, neoglucogenesis, lipolysis, breakdown of lipids, and very important, ketogenesis from liver, right? So our insulin also inhibits ketogenesis from liver. So our insulin stimulates what? Glucogenesis, lipogenesis and glycolysis, and it inhibits glycogenolysis, neoglucogenesis, lipolysis and ketogenesis from the liver. So with this important note, so now we will see something very important, the regulation of insulin secretion. So in regulation of insulin secretion, first we will see the factors which increase the insulin secretion. So what are those? The first one is our glucose. We know that whenever there is rise in glucose, there is insulin secretion. The second one is glucagon, the glucagon hormone from alpha cells, right? Now the third one is certain amino acids. Apart from glucose and glucagon, certain amino acids like arginine and leucine, they also increase the insulin secretion. Now sir, very important, there are certain GI hormones. There are certain GI hormones, they also increase the insulin secretion. So any GI hormone which increase the insulin secretion is known as incretins, right? So these are incretins. Now see, the first incretin is GLP-1, known as glucagon-like peptide, right? So GLP-1 glucagon-like peptide, which is one incretin, is increase the insulin secretions. That's why the GLP-1 analogs, right? GLP-1 analogs like exenatide, they are used in the treatment of diabetes mellitus. Very important. Now see, as we know that the GI hormones, incretins, they increase the insulin secretions, but there are something called as DPP-4. This enzyme degrades our GLP-1. So if DPP-4 will degrade the GLP-1, there will be less insulin secretion. That's why we use something called DPP-4 blockers, DPP-4 inhibitors like our gliptins, sexagliptin, sitagliptin and linagliptin. So by using these DPP-4 blockers and inhibitors, we will inhibit the DPP-4 enzyme. That's why we will protect the degradation of GLP-1, right? So by using DPP-4 inhibitor, we will protect the GLP-1. That's why there will be release of insulin. That's why these DPP-4 inhibitors are used in the treatment of diabetes mellitus. Very important. Now, apart from GLP-1 and DPP-4 inhibitors, there are certain enzymes, they also increase the insulin secretion. What are those, sir? There are gastrin, there are secretins and cholecystokinin CCK. So the factors which increase the insulin secretions are glucose, are glucagon, amino acids like arginine and leucine, and GI hormones like GLP-1 and are gastrin, secretin and cholecystokinin CCK. With this important note, now we will see the factors that decrease the insulin secretion. So see here, sir, very important. The first one is our somatostatin, our universal inhibitor from delta cells. The second one is diazoxide, which opens the ATP sensitive potassium channel and decrease the insulin secretion, right? That's why used in the treatment of insulinoma. Now, very important, the third one is agents like streptozocin and alloxan. They also decrease the insulin secretion and causes hyperglycemia. That's why used to create to experimental diabetes, sir. Very important. We have somatostatin, we have diazoxide, we have streptozocin, alloxan. These are the factors which decrease the insulin secretions. Now see, something very important. Effect of autonomic nervous system on insulin secretion. So here we have two stimulations, one parasympathetic, second one is sympathetic. So the parasympathetic stimulation is always known for increase in insulin secretion, sir. What are those, sir? Those are our vagal stimulation and acetylcholine stimulation. Now see, sir, this sympathetic stimulation is mediated by two receptors. One is alpha receptors. They are known to decrease the insulin predominantly. They are very dominant. The second one is beta receptors. They are known to increase in insulin secretion. So the sympathetic stimulation, because the alpha 2 receptors are dominant and they are known to decrease the insulin secretion, so the sympathetic stimulation is also known to decrease the insulin secretion, right? So we have somatostatin, diazoxide, and the streptozocin and aloxan. At the same time, we also have autonomic nervous system, that is our parasympathetic, that increase the insulin secretion, and our sympathetic, that decrease the insulin secretion. With this important note, so now we will talk about the counter regulatory hormones. So we know that insulin is the only hypoglycemic hormone. Insulin which decrease the glucose level, so only hypoglycemic hormone. Now see, in conditions where the blood glucose levels goes down less than 30 mg per deciliter, the patient might lead to coma, very serious complications, right? So in that condition, there will be release of hormones that will cause hyperglycemia, right? So to counteract the action of insulin, that is hypoglycemia, there will be release of hormones that will cause hyperglycemia. What are those hormones, sir? Those are our counter regulatory hormones. So what are those hormones? There are, the first one is growth hormone, right? Growth hormone which increase the glucose levels. So if any diabetic patient coming to you with the early morning hyperglycemia, that hyperglycemia is caused by our growth hormone, and this phenomenon is known as Dawn phenomenon. You know Dawn, the early morning, right? So Dawn phenomenon. That's why our growth hormone is considered as a physiological antagonist of insulin, right? So apart from growth hormone, we have other hormones also. So the second one is our thyroid hormone. This also increase the glucose levels. Our glucagon from alpha cells, then the glucocorticoid, the cortisol, and the last one is our catecholamines, epinephrine. So epinephrine also increase the blood glucose. How? By decreasing the insulin. So with this important note, so thank you so much for listening, friends, and please give your important feedback in the comment section, and stay happy, stay safe, study a lot. Thank you so much. Have a great day.